mission in life and get away from the Adamites and the black devil helpers messing with the white light. Other religion, the wicked, don't need tarot cards. I'm looking out in the dark. I stay on my lahaj, learning, speaking, and read. And one day I'll teach it to those that want it and those that need. The master teacher will be holy to me. And those that need the master teacher will be holy to me. And those that need the master teacher will be holy to me. And when Baba comes home, we'll build a bigger jamboree. Religion of wickedness, don't need tarot cards. Religion of wickedness, don't need tarot cards. I teach you to
Well, bad. Can you guys hear me? I don't know if they ended the stream. Yeah, I guess I can't use that. That's yucky. It's a beautiful song. Can you guys hear me? Press one if you guys can hear me. I don't think you guys can see me. Can anyone hear me? Okay. Yeah, can you guys hear me? Press one if you guys can hear me. Yeah, they stopped. They can't. They won't let me use that. They won't let me use that clip. That's yucky. It's a beautiful song. Uh, that's yucky. All right. Well, at least they let you know up front rather than because before they'll let you play it and then by tomorrow they'll take the video down. So that's good. They stopped us in the very beginning, so we'll know what we what we can and cannot use. Okay. Yeah, it's a beautiful song. That's yucky. But they won't let me play it. So that's okay. That is okay. All right. So we can't have our little intro music for today, but we'll work through that. Nevertheless, we shall work through that. No problem. It's okay. And you know, it's okay. But that's fine. Let's just get started with today's discussion. Like always, we have a lot to cover today. All right. So, for those who do not know me, right, and you watching this for the first time, my name is Peti Sina Tebtu Re'e, and I've been over a 30-year student teacher of the profound doctrine of the master teacher, known to us as Panabab Yananan, also known as Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, who has been teaching us our ancient culture. We identify as Wu-Sabat, also known as Wu-Nawab, which stands for those who make decisions based on sound right reasoning, based on the principles of Ma'at, based on the wisdom of the Hutri. In essence, what the culture is about as an African people, being in harmony with natural nature. And that's what we identified as Wunawap or Wu-Sabat. It meant those who made decisions based on reasoning because we lived in harmony with nature. And we argue that the conditions that Black people are dealing with, the negative sufferings we're dealing with all over the globe, is due to the fact that we got away from our ancient culture of reasonability, of sound reasoning, of living in harmony with natural nature. And we say the only way we're going to fix our problems is for us to get back to this original culture. And so I'm just one of many student teachers around the globe who has been trying to re-educate our people about this ancient culture and why it's so important for us to get back to it, to get away from the foreign cultures that we have adapted all over the globe. Black people have adapted foreign cultures and they've gotten away from their original natural nature culture. And we're saying this is the cause of all of our problems and all of our sufferings. And we must get back to our original culture of Wu-Sabat if we want to fix those problems. And so, myself, like many other teachers, we try to educate people. The master teacher has been teaching us for over 50 some odd years. And I, just like many other students who are also trying to educate people, we do question and answer classes. We put out many books the master teacher has done over the past 50 years, trying to re-educate our people about our original way of life and way of doing things. And that's what we're dedicated to. So we ask anyone to look out, check our lectures out. If you have any questions and concerns, do not hesitate to ask those questions, because that is what we're dedicated to. So with that all being said, before we get started with our discussions on every class, we go through our prayer system that we have, because our culture as Africans, we are a spiritual people. We're not a religious people. We are a spiritual people, right? And as spiritual people, we have rituals, and part of those rituals were prayers and chanting and dance rituals and all of these things to keep us in harmony with nature, to keep us in our physical bodies in tune, and to helped us connect with our ancestors who existed on higher dimensions. So we went through these rituals and prayers. And so we start all our discussions with a prayer, right? And we end our discussions with a prayer and chanting. Okay, so that's very important. So let's get started with today's discussion. We're going to go through our prayer system, and then we're going to go from there. Okay. Baday Kalal Namasat Wufako Amak Kasamun Shalal Pu'ut. Panen Safa Kawun, Pasawat Wu Paturak, Z Kawuna Nazula Lahe Enkum, Mana Sabat Wu-Sabat, Ama Hade En Un Shafe Un, Mana Salafu Wu Nataru, Ajula Nafasukum, Afuk Shane Kawun Kuma, Pasawat Wu Paturuk. This book is the truth and the way. It was sent down for you all from Sabat Wu-Sabat, star constellation, as a guidance and a healing from your ancestors and overseers. Return to your own. Accept what is yours, the truth and the way. And nun tawa ankum laha panan shafe un wu alaj. And nun tawa ankum laha nasui nun. And nun tawa ankum laha ashuk. Ankum at the salafu nun. Anun at the khara ukum. Anun talub nasa kuma. Anun talub nasa kuma. And so nun sayum nataru. And so nun salafu nun. Anun at the musba'u. We thank you all for this healing and cure. We thank you all for not forgetting us. We thank you all for Ashuk. You are our ancestors. We are your children. We seek your help. We seek your help. Help us, divine overseers. Help us, our ancestors. We are Muspa'u. Anun. Atun. Atun. Amun. Jenna 4. Okay. All right. So that is our prayers. I hope that them cutting the video doesn't, mess with, this video uploading or saving. So for anyone at the end of this discussion, well, I'll check it out. Hopefully that everything will move smooth with this lecture from the intro. So I know the beginning is kind of messed up because of the music and an interruption, but hopefully everything moves smoothly from there. Okay, so before we get started with all our discussions, we always talk about the principles of our culture that we live by. In fact, today's discussion is going to be specifically about these principles. So we're going to get into this. So I want to go over the core principles the way I usually do, and then we're going to get into more detailed discussion about these principles and why they're so important, okay? Because we've never done this before, and it's imperative that you guys, and I talk about this all the time, is really understanding the core principles of our culture. Okay, so the core principles of Wu-Sabat / Wu-Nawab. The first one is Ashak, and it stands for divine love, or we say the power of love. And Ashak is the creative force itself, right? We call it nine ether. It's what grew existence, and the goal of all students of Wu-Sabat is to become in harmony once again with this creative force, to become one with Ashak again, and so this is one of our ultimate goals as students in our culture. Principle number 2 is resurrection. Eagles becoming goddesses and gods once again by opening our third eye. So guys, the last 2 weeks, a couple of weeks, we dealt with this particular principle of resurrection. And so for those who have not seen it, definitely check those discussions out. And if you only watched it once, you know me, I'm going to tell you to watch it again. It's very important to really take your time to comprehend those discussions. Principle number 3 is the wisdom of Dahutri and Ma'at. Dahutri stands for your divine mind. Ma'at stands for order. Okay, we did discussions on both of those. So guys, check those out for those who haven't watched those lectures. And if you haven't seen it in a while, again, watch it again. Principle number 4 is relationships. As Sabians, African people, we live of, for, and by each other, right? And we did a discussion on that. The goal of living of, for, and by each other is for us to get away from the Western cultural lifestyles of capitalism, communism, socialism, Marxism, whatever, all the isms that they come up with. We had our own ways before the Europeans dominated the globe with their cultures. And we're saying it's important for us to get back to this original culture. And it was based on relationships, right? Principle number 5 is morphic resonance / matrix. Morphic resonance stands for tones, frequencies, vibrations, sound, uh, and these are the sacred tones that creation is based off, and it produces your matrices. Matrices are the materialization of objects that are produced by these tones and frequencies. Okay. Principle number 6 is soul / spirit. Your soul is your emotional force. Your spirit is your life force. We did discussions on that, so definitely check out those lectures on that. Principle number 7 is Leviathan, stands for moon culture, aka religion, aka Western culture. We did lectures on that, so definitely check that out. Principle number 8 is health. Health stands, the first key to health is a positive mind, right? As melanated people, we need much sunlight. Your body is 70% water, so you need water. Fasting at least once or twice a week. We always recommend herbal diet, as Dr. Sabi and our herbalist brothers out there and sisters who teach that. Exercise, right? That's a part of your health. Rhythmic breathing, meditation, concentration, prayer, and chanting. All of those are a requisite for health. Health is not just physical, but it's also spiritual. Okay, something they don't teach us in here in the West, in these cultures. But our ancestors knew this, and we gotten away from this, guys. Health is physical and spiritual. You can't do one without the other and think you're going to be healthy. Remember that. And the last principle is number 9, which is pa'ut. Pa'ut is existence itself. That's what we identify as the creative force. We just say pa'ut. Understand? It translates as just all. If you translate it into English, it would just be all, right? You can't add to all, because where would you get it from? You can't take from the all, because where would you put it? All is, right? And existence is based on what we call the smat, the cycles. It's based on perpetual cycles, right? Nature is based on cycles. And the acronym stands for the smat. And the energy of creation itself is called akach. It translates to ether. And it means in our language is akak. It's the life force energy, the creation energy of all existence. So it's important. You guys know that. Now, for those who are students of Wu-Sabat, we have 3 primary goals, right? Goal number 1 is to raise the self. Goal number 2 is to fight Leviathan. And goal number 3 is to work to build Sabbatia. Now, and goal number 1, raise the self, you must be born again, as the Christians teach, by learning the culture of Wu-Sabat and to live it, right? And then the first part of that goal is, the first thing you want to do is correct your name by choosing a Sabian name and make it known to all. That's important. You must correct how you look and dress, right? We're Africans, so it's important for us to start wearing African clothing when it's appropriate, of course. You must learn to speak our language, Sabaic. You must study our doctrine every day, which builds your sound right reasoning skills, guys. And you must practice and master our daily rituals to turn yourself inside out, to open that. That's what's going to help you open your third eye. And the key to everything is you always be positive. You're not going to accomplish anything unless you have the positive mind. And then our second goal as a Sabian is we're fighting Leviathan. This includes working to free Panababianan, promoting Wu-Sabat, which is our culture, against their Western culture, become a student teacher, and fight the 6 strongest weapons of Leviathan, which is ignorance, fear, ego, anger, your lust / desires, and lies / deceptions. All of these are the principles of Leviathan that we're at war with each and every day. And then our third goal as Sabians is to work to build Sabbatia. We work to support each other in business. We help each other reach positive goals. We help to build our culture. We must set up a landing zone for Panatharu in Africa, which means we need land in Africa that would be supported by an African government. And Ashuk is the key to accomplish all our goals. Now, what does it mean to be a Sabaean? A Sabaean is someone who's thoughtful and cares, someone who's helpful and honest, someone who's responsible and hardworking, someone who demands justice and honorable, someone who's righteous and humble, someone who is positive and cheerful, someone who is loving and peaceful, someone who's kind and considerate, and someone who is neat, clean, and orderly. Our purpose. As to being, our purpose is liberation from adverse forces, right? We want to get from under the control of Leviathan and the children of Leviathan, who we're being ruled by right now. So number one is we must take action each and every day to free yourself of 6 ether spirits inside and out, which includes Black people who are possessed by these spirit forces. Okay. Number two, acknowledge and fight 6 ether from promoting capitalism, the gay agenda, miscegenation, and the so-called equality of the races, as well as racism, white supremacy. And number three, learn, live by, and promote the laws/rules of natural nature. Now, word of advice: do not judge this doctrine by watching the behavior of Panabab Unanan nor his students. Judge this doctrine by the effectiveness of the information, aka affirmation, that you personally put to practical use. This doctrine is based on self-authentication, guys. Now, know that we are not preachers, but teachers who are dedicated to answering questions until there is a meeting of the minds between the teacher and the student, who then can work in unity, which is the only solution to our problems, guys. So this is why we're doing these classes, so that there could be a meeting of the minds between the student and the teachers. Because once we all are on the same page and we agree on the same concepts, then we could begin to work together, because unity is the only solution to our problems, guys. Right? Black people unifying is coming together, working together, but we have to share the same goals. We have to share the same principles, the same cultural principles. That is the bond that we must have. This is why so many of our Black organizations, it's very difficult for them to develop, because of that divide, that cultural divide, because that's what's dividing our people. Everyone is divided into all these different cultures and principles and concepts, and we can't get nothing done. And this is why we as Sabaeans work so hard to try to get our people to comprehend our culture, why we say what we say, why we do what we do, in hopes that there is a meeting of the minds. And once there is that meeting of the minds, then we can really get to work and make things happen for the positive. So, with all that being said, okay, I see you guys asked some questions. Now, today we're just going to focus on these principles. We're just going to get into details about them. And we're just going to have a conversation in regards to these things. Okay, question from Edimoff, my beloved brother. So he says, question: if one never heard about Wu-Sabat and fight for Black people's liberation, are they part of resurrection? That's a really good question. That's an interesting question, actually. Okay, so we have to be clear. Let's see. Hold on. We need to be clear when we talk about resurrection. That's why we did 2 weeks. Last 2 weeks we did discussions on what resurrection is. Okay, so we don't want to confuse what resurrection is and fighting for the liberation of Black people, because Umar Johnson, he fights for the liberation of Black people. The Nation of Islam, in their way, they're fighting for the liberation of Black people. In fact, a lot of the Black organizations all claim to be fighting for the liberation of Black people. A lot of them do. Hebrew Israelites claim that. The Moors claim that. So you have a lot of individuals who does claim to be fighting for our liberation. But when it comes to resurrection, that's a spiritual experience. Learning, for one, to learn how to raise their vibration, right? Because existence is what? We talk about this a lot. That existence is based on the SMAT circle. So when we look at the SMAT circle, right? When we look at the SMAT circle, on the bottom it says 3 south. And that's where we are. That's where humanity is. This universe is vibrating on a 3 ether cycle. But we as African people have the ability to vibrate on a 4 ether universe, a 5 ether universe, a 6 ether, all the way up to 9 ether. And so resurrection is learning to raise your vibration so that you can make contact with those higher dimensions and then be able to exist or travel to those realms. Right now, because we're vibrating at such a low rate, right? We wouldn't be able to survive in a galaxy that's vibrating on those dimensions. This is where a lot of your ETs are coming from. So for those of you who study the ET phenomenon, first of all, I recommend you guys to study the ET phenomenon. If you're not familiar with it, guys, you must become familiar with the ET phenomenon. We did a detailed lecture on the ET phenomenon. In fact, where's this lecture at? Let me try to pull it up real quick. If I can find it. Here it is, right here. And it's called Our Sight. Let's see, UFOs, ETs, and interdimensional reality. In fact, they took they took this video down. What was it? Last week they took this video down, and I had to debate it. I had to fight with YouTube to get it back up. So they put it back up. But it looks like they put a disclaimer over here, because this is the first time I noticed this. And it says the interdimensional hypothesis is a hypothesis advanced by UFOologists such as Jacques, I don't know that name, some French guy seems like, which states unidentified flying objects and related events involve visitation from other realities or dimensions that coexist separately alongside ours. Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly what we're talking about. And now scientists already are acknowledging that Japanese scientist Makai Kuko, however you pronounce his name, he already kind of authenticated that with the concept of string theory that they put out there. That existence is, they believe there's like 11 dimensions or something like that they're teaching now. So, we're not the only ones. But guys, it's imperative that you guys watch this this particular video. If you guys haven't seen it in a while, we put a lot of information in this particular lecture on this subject matter, because our whole doctrine is based around understanding the different dimensions, the different realities, and that's what resurrection is all about, to restore yourself so that you will be able to make contact with these higher realms. Yeah, Allison, it wasn't there. They just put that there. Like I said, they took this video down. YouTube took my video down. And they put it back. I fought them, and they put it back up. And they put this disclaimer, I don't know. They put that up there. So, it is what it is. But, again, it's important, you guys, you guys understand that this concept. And also going back to eating off. You talked about music, doing a discussion on music. Actually, we are We are. We are. See, this is why. Let's go back to my notes on the core principles. When we talk about morphic resonance, right? That's dealing with tones, sounds, vibrations, frequencies. Everything is based on this morphic resonance. And it's imperative that you guys have to understand this, you know. Um Hold on, you know what? Before I even go there, uh let me just make this point clear because I think it's very important. When it talks about when we talk about resurrection, this is what makes Dr. York significant. What makes Dr. York significant is he is a spiritual master teacher, and we are students of him. And it's likened to the Doctor Strange movie. You know, I think this movie actually does a great job of showing the student-teacher relationship when you're dealing with spirituality, because the goal of the student is to become a master, a spiritual master themselves. This is what resurrection is. For you to become a spiritual master. This is what our whole doctrine is trying to educate you about. And this is the relationship with Doctor Strange and his master, right? So Doctor Strange, spiritual master, and like in this scene, I've talked about this before. You know, it was about what she was teaching Doctor Strange how to go out of body, how to peer into those other dimensions, guys. So if you haven't watched this movie, definitely watch this movie. If you haven't seen it in a while, I highly recommend watching it again and pay really close attention to the concepts and principles that this movie is trying to teach, right? Because it's I think it's extremely important. It's imperative that people understand the relationship between the master and the student. That's the whole basis of our whole doctrine. The master teacher is just that, a spiritual master who's educating us how we ourselves can develop ourselves spiritually. And that's what the Doctor Strange movie is trying to teach. The same concepts. Exact same concepts. And that student teacher concept is known throughout the world, throughout the ancient world. This is something that's always understood in our culture as Africans, is going on to this very day, that student master relationship. It's going on in the Asian cultures, whether it be the Chinese understand these concepts, the Hindus understand these concepts, those, the East Indians. The only people that do not understand spirituality is the Caucasian, because they're not spiritual, they're materialists. That's why our people are so ignorant when it comes to spirituality, because the Mukaso doesn't deal with spiritual concepts. He's just purely materialist. His whole culture is based on materialism. It doesn't address anything spiritual, and in fact, they ignore it. And any Caucasian that even talks about spirituality is considered a fringe teacher. He's a fringe. They call him they have all kinds of labels for them that they don't respect. That's in essence how the Mukaso treats their own people who are spiritual. So I think that's important. So now let's get back to the essence of our discussion, the core principles. Now, why do I want to talk about this? I think that's important for you guys to know. The reason why I want to have this discussion about our core principles is simply because what I've noticed, as I keep telling you guys, for my years of being in this doctrine, through over 3 decades now, what I've seen is people come into this information and then they leave. They come into this doctrine and then they leave this doctrine. And the question is, why do they leave? What I have experienced, and you guys can put this to the test, any so-called ex-student, what you're going to find out is that they do not know the core principles of our culture. And that's what I personally experienced in dealing with so many students. That's why I talk about it so much. This is why I try my best to explain it, because most students, when they leave our organization, they 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 leave it because they never, how can I say it, really understood the benefits of what we were really trying to teach. And plus, there's another factor to it. Some did know, and it was just not for them. That's why the master teacher always said, I've been talking about this book lately. Where is it at? Let me see if I can find it. This right here, the celestial being versus the terrestrial being. We talked about this in the last couple, discussions. A lot of students that come into this, they're not spiritual. So they're not celestial beings. They're terrestrial. They're physical. And we're physical because we've been raised by the Caucasian, who are also physical, who are very materialistic. And so a lot of students have a hard time dealing with the spiritual aspects of it. I know one personal student. He was in the doctrine for like 20 some odd years, as long as me. He came in almost just after me, and he had left the organization about 2000, maybe around 2011. Yeah, I would say 2011, 2012 is when he kind of, left. And he would tell me, because I would ask him about spiritual things. We would have talks about it. And he tells me he doesn't have the discipline to meditate. And I'm like, what? How'd you join our organization? You don't have the discipline to meditate. I'm like, that's one of the core principles of our whole doctrine is how are you going to develop yourself spiritually? And you don't have the patience to sit down and quiet your mind. And he said he lacked the patience to do that. And so you have those kind of people, you have those kind of people. And so they're just materialists. They it's hard for them to develop their spiritual side. And that's what makes being in this organization very difficult, because of that reality. And guys, I put anyone to the test. If you start talking to different students, and I'm talking about students, I'm not talking about people who don't classify themselves as students. This is why we're having a hard time in our organization, a lot of conflict in our organization, because what I argue is that we're not adhering to the core principles of what our organization, our teachings is all about. And this is why we're trying to do this discussion. So let's go back to our core principles. Then the principle number one is a shot. Now, I said last week I was going to do a lecture just on this concept, a shot, because it's very important that you guys understand what we mean by divine love, right? We shouldn't even be using the word love, because that's one of those trick words that they gave us, because you turn the word love around and it spells evil, right? It phonetically spells evil. So it's in opposition to so-called love, and that's why another reason why it's important for us to speak our own language, which is Sabaic, okay? Because there's a lot of trick words in English, guys. But a shak is what we say divine love. Now, just to give you a quick, synopsis on this, what a shak is all about is learning to how can I say this? When I was a child, I had this experience. I didn't know what it was until I got into this doctrine where the master teacher explained these things. But when I was in child, if I was in blackness, and some of you guys probably have experienced this. When I would sit in blackness, it'd be dark or whatever in a dark room. It was as if my mind filled the whole room. My mind became connected to all the blackness of the room. And so if anyone's ever had that experience, press 1, because I'm very curious to find out if anyone has ever had such an experience. But it used to happen to me when I was around 5, 6 years old, 7 years old, and I'd be in this dark room, and it's like you're one with the blackness. Now, if you research this um this spiritual experience, you'll find out it's a very common thing that people experience. Okay, so good. I'm not the only one around here that's had that experience. Okay, so if you research it, you'll find out it's actually a common experience. Now, this is the goal. This is the goal of a shack. The blackness, that's the creative force itself that grew all things. And we have to learn to become how can I say, in harmony once again. It's the state of peace. In fact, you go into the blackness every time you fall asleep and you lose consciousness, right? And your body is in a peaceful state, because that's the only way you can get rest, is your body has to be in that serene, peaceful state. This is what meditation is. Meditation, in essence, is conscious sleep. It's what you're doing in meditation is you're actually putting yourself in that harmonious state. And so the goal of a shack, divine love, is learning how to keep yourself in that state and not allow negative people to take you off your center. So you stop. What happens is you stop judging things from a mortal point of view. You stop allowing yourself to get pulled into arguments and debates and conflicts, and you maintain that peace, that harmony. Because when you lose harmony and peace, you lose concentration, you lose focus, and you lose your ability to reason soundly. And that's why we teach you must learn to tap back in to ashak, that blackness, that serenity, so that when you're dealing with people, different person, places, and things, you're dealing with in a clear mind. Because we live in a culture, this culture is always trying to keep you in a state of fear and anxiety and worry. You're not, it tries to take you out of that divine harmony. That's the goal of this culture. And so we as Africans, when we was in our culture, when we ruled ourselves, we was always in that serene state, not in that negative depressive state that they keep us in. And you got to learn how to get back into that state. That way you will stop judging things from a mortal point of view, and you will start judging things from a celestial point of view. The way the Natharu, that's how they judge things. We get caught up with so many petty things, guys, and you have to learn how to overcome those things, to maintain your balance, to maintain your harmony. Yeah, I hear you. He said he meditated in a dark room and felt like you disappear. You become one with the blackness, and I hear you, Zamal. Same thing, right? This is our goal. The goal is to keep that state of harmony at all times, because see, here's the thing. All kinds of things, unfortunately, it pisses us off. And that agitation, the problem is we keep judging things from a mortal point of view, and we keep getting upset with family and friends and all kinds of situations that take you out of the realm of ashak, and it puts you in the realm of chaos. Now, I know it takes a lot of training, it takes a lot of conditioners, because there's many things that makes people upset. And if you find yourself where you can't control your emotional mood swings, that's because those are the lower forces. Those are the spirit forces of attachment that keeps us bound to this dimension. And that's the battle. That's the battle within yourself that you have to overcome. Think about it, right? You're married, you have a husband, you have a wife, you walk into the bedroom, and they're in the bed with another person. And the person who's experiencing that, they get very emotional. They get extremely upset. They get irate. And some people turn to violence, and they harm their partner for doing that because they feel violated. Guys, these are the things you're going to have to learn to overcome. This is why the master teacher has taught us. The Nathar, if one of the masters was to come down here, because they're able to maintain their composure, he said they would allow you to shoot them. Now think about that. because you can't, because I'm like, if they incarnate into a physical body, they already know you couldn't kill them, and they don't get emotional like that. They're in control of their emotional state. We in this culture, the Mukasu, he keeps us constantly agitated over all kinds of things. Like right now, the COVID, right? Do you take the shot? Do you not take the shot? He's constantly have us in an agitated state. And a shack is learning how to maintain that harmonious state so that you don't succumb to the agitation that puts you in a chaotic state, guys. Yeah, eat him off. And that's what I was trying to say. Most of us remember, children, or understand, children from the age from 0 to 7, your third eye is open, and so you're in harmony with your higher self as a child. And the culture, because we live in this culture, they make you a materialist, and then your third eye closed. By the time you turn 8 years old, your third eye closed down because of all of the things that this culture taught you, the negative concepts, the food they fed you. And that's your parents are doing that to you. Your family is doing this to you. They're giving you all these false belief systems, and it takes you out of harmony with nature. And so in Wu-Sabat, we have to relearn all of these principles again. That's our goal, right? So last week, right, the other principle is resurrection. Now we did the whole thing the last 2 weeks on resurrection. So I don't need to, put too much time on resurrection unless you guys have a specific question about resurrection. Again, it's about opening up your third eye. And so guys, definitely study those lectures we did last week on that subject matter on resurrection. So definitely take the time out to study it. The next principle is the wisdom of the Hutui and Ma'at. Right? Now we did discussions on that. It's imperative that you understand. This was the symbol. I have this for the Hutui. This is the symbol of the Hutui in ancient Kemet, and he had this, what they call the ibis bird, as a head mask. And now the ibis bird represented, they call it the Ach. And that's the Ach is the energy, the creation energy of the universe itself. And his mind, the Huti represents your divine mind, which is your Ach, your 9 ether mind, is what the Huti represented. I mean, the Hutui had many different principles in ancient Kemet, but the ultimate principle, he represented the mind of existence. And the master teacher, he wrote a book on teaching the wisdom of the Hutui. And this is from the book right here, The Wisdom of the Hutui. And I'm on page 89. I'm going to read something he wrote. He says this: I shall now proceed to a consideration of the first of Tehuti's 9 doctrine, the doctrine of mentalism, in which is explained the truth that the mental is in the all, and that each individual receives mental impressions in the mind. The universe is mental. In the words of Tehuti, I ask to close attention and careful study of this great doctrine on the part of my students of the ancient Egyptian order, for it is really the basic doctrine of the whole Egyptian teachings and of the Huti art of mental transmutation, meaning our whole culture, as the master teacher was explaining, is based on understanding your divine mind and learning how to be in harmony with your higher mind. We talked about that last week. You have different levels of mind. You have your conscious mind, then you have your subconscious mind, and then you have your superconscious mind. And your goal is to link up all of your minds. Once you're able to do that by raising your vibration, you will restore your memory. You'll restore your past lives. You won't reincarnate no more. You guaranteed to resurrect into the higher realms. This is our ultimate goal. And that was the basis of the teachings of the Hutui, to tap into your divine mind. As far as Edemoth, yeah, I mean, there's many of the Natharu and the principles we could talk about, but the reason why we focus on the Hutri, because we're focusing on the Hutri focuses on our divine mind. Why is that important? I'll tell you why that's so important. Why I stress it a lot, because of something the master teacher wrote. Okay, and I talked about this before in this book. This is a book we put out. This was the 9 Ball. This is a book the master put out in the early 70s. And this is 9 Ball Part 1, the very last paragraph. And I've read this many times and I'm going to read it again. Pay attention, right? It says, it starts here. All power begins in the mind, be it political, economic, military, or scientific, because the body is just a framework and tool for the mind. Therefore, the prime power is mind power, from which all other powers develop and mature, including the power of liberation. 9 Ether develops the 9 reason. 9 reason develops 9 knowledge, and 9 knowledge develops the 9 mind power, which is prerequisite to Ethiopian mental and physical liberation, guys. The only we say Wu-Sabat, Wu-Nawab stands for sound right reason, and I say this in the beginning of all my discussions. The reason why black people in their conditions, why we're so messed up, is because we lost our ability to reason soundly. We lost our ability to make intelligent decisions, and this is why all the other races are kicking our butts. We lost our divine mind, and if we're going, in order for us to restore ourselves as a people, we have to restore our divine minds again. We have to restore our intelligence. And the first step is getting away from foreign cultures. This is all the master teacher kept saying. That's why he said, I'm the reformer. I'm here to reform you on how you used to live. I'm here to re-educate you about your ancient way of doing things, how you built those pyramids. We forgot all of these things. We forgot. We gave up our divine mind. That's why I focus on this. We gave our reasonability. Our people are constantly making irrational decisions. It's perpetual. The irrational decisions are insane the way we make decisions. And that's because we're out of our minds, as the master keep trying to explain. And we have to restore our divine mind. That's what's up, Silo Kangas. That's right. Restoring, getting back to our higher state of consciousness. This is what our ultimate goal as students are. So we got to keep in mind the reason why we're being ruled by foreigners, because they're outsmarting us. They're literally outsmarting. Like, and I talked about this before. Think about it. As Africans, the biggest challenge that Africa had when 500 years ago, when the Mukasu came to enslave our people, is our division. We're divided into all of these different tribes. And then the other problem with the division is people in South Africa wasn't communicating with people in East Africa. People in East Africa wasn't communicating with people in West Africa. If you look at the United States, that's not set up. They're not set up like that. The people on the East Coast isn't communicating with people on the West Coast. The people on the West Coast are in communication with people on, in the South, and vice versa. The whole, this whole country is set up where the military and their protective apparatus is in complete communication and awareness. This country has a harmonious language. Everyone here speaks English. On a continent, we were speaking many different dialects. And this is what opened us up to be invaded. Why the West Coast was being invaded and the East Coast, they had no idea. So you can conquer one section of the continent while one section had no idea. And then eventually they get conquered. And this is how they was able to beat us, because what? No unification. We didn't understand the significance and importance why we have to work together to protect ourselves. Now, look at the mistake we made and look how much we've suffered in the last 500 years because we forgot that level of thinking, of working in harmony. Look at how many millions of our people have suffered because we were so divided into all of these different tribes. We lost our divine mind is the point. And we must get back to our divine mind if we want freedom. You know, we must restore our sound reasonability. This is all the master teachers trying to educate us about. You know? So you go back to principle number 4, relationships, right? As African people, we live of, for, and by each other. Which means we got to give up the European, cultural systems. Guys, listen. Capitalism is not designed for us. That's designed for white people. Capitalism, socialism, communism, all their isms I talk about. We had a system. Guys, now think about this. Why would we give up a system? We lived in Africa and we existed for thousands, tens of thousands of years, right? Supporting, living of, for, and by each other. The Caucasian comes in 500 years and just turns the whole planet upside down, living under their capitalistic system where they control all the wealth, all the power, have all the money. They print the money however they want to print it, and they give themselves the wealth while we're constantly working for them. How does that make sense? How does that make sense? And we're struggling. Now, keep in mind, what are we working for money for? You work for money so that you can buy your necessary resources to live, right? So you're working, you're getting a paycheck so you can pay your rent or your mortgage, pay your electric bill, gas bill. You buy food, you go to Walmart or whatever supermarket, you go buy your food, right? You buy clothing from the mall. Everything you're using money for comes from the earth. These are resources that the earth provides for you. The earth don't charge you for food. The earth don't charge, the apple tree the apple tree naturally grows. It's not going to charge you for an apple. Walmart does. The earth don't charge you for lumber, but Home Depot does. Why are we paying for something that's naturally free? And we're slaving for these people. As Africans, we lived up for and by each other, worked in harmony with one another. Think about how they got us living insanity. So what did the master say? He said, you lost your sound right reasoning. And that's why you can't convince black people to leave the European culture alone. He said, you guys are under a spell. You're under a hypnotic spell where y'all lost your minds, where y'all up there working for something that's naturally free. This is the challenge, right? This is a challenge to get our people to understand the systems that they get. Listen, guys, we could do we could do this overnight. If black people around the globe were to start relating to each other, we can find out, because we already have the natural resources. We live, from Africa to the Caribbean to different places. We have all the skill sets. We have everything we need to come together. But what's dividing us? The cultures, because black people are divided into all of these different cultural concepts, and we're fighting one another. That's why I said we got to get back to divine love and harmony with the creation energies, so we can stop making petty decisions that divides us and keep us in conflict. Because right now we're our own worst enemy. We're creating the problems. and we don't have to. But yet we want to sit there and complain when some white cop shoots somebody down, kills a brother. You know, we're complaining about that. And think about, guys, go back to our reasonability, right? White, like that, what's that case that's going on in the news? The Ahmaud Arbery, where the 3 white guys killed the brother. Black people, what's wrong with us? Why do we keep going to the same people for justice that creates the injustice? Why do we go to the same people for justice that created the injustice? You got the police department that kills you, and you go to the people that the police works for justice. They're the ones who set the system up. This is what we mean by our people. We're not in our right minds. How are the people who created injustice going to give us justice? This is the problem, right? Okay. So let's keep. So let's where we at now? Morphic resonance / matrix. Now this is a little bit more complex concept. Morphic resonance, understanding this. Now I talk about it a lot, and I have to do a detailed lecture just explaining this because there's a lot to unpack this concept. Just understand this, guys. Everything in existence is vibration. Everything in existence is vibration. Okay? And if it's vibrating, it creates a tone or a frequency. So, for instance, if you was to go to China, they speak Chinese. They look all the same, right? They have a certain type of architecture. They have a certain type of dress. They have a certain type of food. So what that means is the Chinese have their own morphic resonant frequency. They're vibrating on their particular harmonics. Each race has their own unique harmonics. So if you go to India, you see the same thing. The Hindu people, they have their language, they have a food, they have a dress, they have different architectures, they have different music, their tones are different. That's their morphic resonance. And the same thing with the Caucasian. He has his unique morphic resonance. Each race by nature has their own unique morphic resonant frequency. That's why when you live another person's culture, what you're doing is you're tapping into their morphic resonant frequency. The worst thing you could do is speak another person's language, because the minute you speak another person's language, okay, guys, as African people, we have a natural nature language that's in harmony with our genetics. When you speak a foreign language, you alter your genetic resonant frequency. They call it epigenetics. Epigenetics, the ability for your genetics to alter and shift based on the environment, based on your food you eat, based on the conditions you're in. Guys, I remember I did a discussion on that. That Wu-Sabat is a genetic doctrine, because that's all the master teacher has been trying to teach us. He said you got to live, your culture is based on your genetics. We talk about this a lot, right? As African people, we have a high concentration of melanin. Because we have a high concentration of melanin, that means we belong outdoors 90% of the time. But Caucasian culture is just the opposite. They keep us indoors 90% of the time. So what do they say Black people suffer from? Malillumination. They say that Black people suffer from a vitamin D deficiency in Americas because of the fact that we're not getting enough sunlight and sunshine. So that tells you that we actually have a certain way we have to live according to our genetics. And when you're living in a foreign culture, you're forced to live under their cultural conditions. Why? Because the foreigners control all the rules, the laws, the regulations for their culture. And you got Africans moving to Russia. I'm like, the heck is wrong with them? They're moving to Russia. I'm like, you're not going to thrive there. You're gonna try to convert into that morphic resonance. All you're gonna always do is serve the Russians. If you want to rule again, you have to live the culture that's designed for you by genetics. That's what the master teacher's been trying to teach. Morph, guys. This is why you think the Caucasian, when they kidnapped us and enslaved us, they forced us to change our name. Like I talked about this before, right? Let's look at this. I have this. The whole Kunta Kinte thing, right? So let's listen to this real quick.
I want to hear you say your name. Your name is Toby. What's your name?
Kunta.
Lord God help that boy. They're gonna whip him dead.
What's your name? Say it. Toby. Who are you? Say your name. What's your name?
Toby.
Hi. Say it again. Say it louder so they all can hear you. What's your name?
Toby. My name is Toby.
Hi. That's a good nigger. Cut him down.
Now, why did they do this to us? Why did they forced us to change their names? I'll tell you why. Because they understood the science of morphic resonance. They knew and they understood that once you change someone's name, which is their tones, it forced us to identify with the Caucasian. It's why it's so hard for Black people to this day to identify with their African heritage, because they altered our morphic frequency. We're disconnected. We don't have a connect. Guys, why you think we don't even like so many of our people altering how they look? They altering their body parts, right? We all know that. We're trying to look like the Caucasian. We've been doing this for years now, because our morphic resonance has been altered. And the Mukasu understood that science. We used to know these sciences. We forgot these sciences. We lost our sound reasoning. And this is why the master teacher keeps trying to explain to our people, you guys are under a hypnotic spell. You guys are making constant irrational decisions that are destroying yourselves. And that's why it's so hard to try to educate our people, because they're locked into that morphic frequency, thinking like the Caucasian. It's our biggest challenge. As far as Toro, Roots is a fake story. Whether Roots is true or not, that's not the point, right? The point is we're talking about what is a fact, is the fact that we've changed our names. We now have Caucasian names. That's a fact. Whether the root story is true or not, it's not even relevant. What is relevant is the fact that we had indigenous names, whether we were native to America or whether we were from Africa. We had indigenous names that connected us to our culture and our way of doing things. And we don't have those names no more. We have names like Bob and John and William and Samantha and Susan and all Caucasian names, Edward, and the list goes on. And it locks us to the frequency of the other race, of the Caucasian. Guys, this is a science. We forgot this science. The science of tones, frequencies, vibrations. It matters. Like the Moors keep talking about, why do you guys, call yourself Black? Black is a color. If they understood the color, everything is based on color. Color represents a vibration, a frequency. Black is not even a color. That they're wrong on that. And the master teacher tried to explain that for years. Black is supreme balance. Black is what grew existence itself, the blackness of space. That's why our ancestors said what? We come from the waters of noon and Nunet, the creation forces. Now scientists call it what? They call it dark energy that turns into dark matter. And this is how suns are birthed. Again, we lost this sound reasoning, right? The next one is soul and spirit. Ask the average black person, do you have a soul and a spirit? Most people, our people don't have a clue on what that is. I mean, you know, they'll probably answer yes if they're religious. But then if you ask them, okay, how do you connect with your soul or how do you connect with your spirit? A lot of our people are not familiar with that. They lost that knowledge. Again, this is spiritual knowledge, spiritual science we used to have that we don't have anymore. You know, unfortunately, we've lost all this information. You know, and we're the goal is trying to re-educate us about the importance of these concepts, because we are the only organization that really focus on these principles the way we do. No one else does. And if you want liberation, that's the key, guys. If we want liberation from adverse forces, if we want to get back to where we can rule ourselves and be in harmony as a people and have power again, then we have to understand the things that how can I say? We have to understand how you gain power. You gain power through culture. You gain power through culture. This is what racism, white supremacy is all about. So if people ask you, well, what is racism, white supremacy? The definition of racism, white supremacy is quite simple. All you have to do is identify what did white people do 500 years ago. What they did 500 years ago is invade indigenous peoples, right? They invaded us here in the Americas. They invaded us in Africa. And what did they do? They kidnapped our people and they enslaved our people. Now, when you enslave a person, what is the goal of doing that to somebody? The goal of doing that is for the enslaver, the slave master, is to take the wealth and power of the slave and transfer it to the slave master. And they did it as a race. So what white people did is basically kidnap us as black people, took our wealth, took our power, and they transferred that to themselves as a race. That's racism, where one group of people subjugate another group of people and take their power and their wealth away. And white supremacy is what? To this day, they taught us three things. One, they taught us that they're God. And to this day, you got black people worshiping the white man as God. And it's hard to tell them not that they're not God. I'm like, you can't get no more supreme than that. The fact that they taught us that they're God. Then they taught us that they're the fathers of everything. They're the father of music. They're the father of science, mathematics. They're, Aristotle, Socrates. They basically said they invented anything that's worth inventing. That's white supremacy at its finest. Then they also taught us that we as Africans had no culture worth learning about, which is why they don't, teach it in their school systems. They make sure black people, we're sending our children to be indoctrinated into white supremacy every time we send our children to their school system, because they're not taught anything about what it means to be an African and or indigenous people and the power that comes with that. All we're taught about is white people's greatness. We're taught about their ancestors, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, the list goes on. They make us know their ancestors, and our ancestors is erased. That's white supremacy at its finest. This is the issue, guys. And so the next principle is Leviathan. Leviathan stands for moon culture. Now, Caucasians, they teach you in their religion, Christianity, they teach us that we're born into sin. Now, when you look it up, you find that sin is what? Sin is the ancient moon god, moon culture. And what is the moon? The moon is a dead universal body, has no life. And that's what their culture is. It produces no life. That's why in Western culture, their culture, everything they produce is artificial. Artificial food, artificial clothes, artificial home structures, everything is altering natural nature. That's moon culture. It's a culture of death. They deal with dead things. They don't deal with life. And we now live that culture and think it's fun. And that's what we call Leviathan, the spell. We're under the spell of a dead culture. We're living a dead culture and wondering why we're suffering. And the Caucasian built their whole culture around these dead principles. And that's moon culture, guys. And it's imperative. It's imperative that we understand that. And oh yeah, Akeem, you're right. Some people don't know the difference between soul and spirit. That's why the master teacher wrote the book. What is soul and what is spirit? We put out a book trying to explain the difference between the two. Because our people don't know the difference. It's sad, but it's true. They don't know the difference. The next thing is well, we talk about health, but I don't want to spend too much time on the concepts of health. In fact, we have to do specific discussions just on dealing with health, and we will. That's extremely important. And then the last one is Pa'ut, the creation force, existence force. And this is one of the goals, right, of us understanding the concepts of existence. We put out a lot of information regarding that. The concepts of existence is this creation force of 9 ether versus the 6 ether. So now when we move into the where we talk about the goals, what are the 3 goals of a student of Wu-Sabat? The first goal is to raise the self. We talk about this, and it says, in raising the self, you must learn to be born again, as the Christians teach, by learning the culture of Wu-Sabat. And this is, I realized, one of the hardest or the biggest challenges for us is giving up the Western culture. The key is how, it's learning how, because we've been conditioned to live this culture, it's learning how, it's no way to really live the culture of Wu-Sabat by holding on to the European cultures. You have to give it up, because everything we learn in their culture is bad for us. And I mean, just about everything all that they taught us harms us. Question. What's the statement is Wes Beezy. If I pronounce that name, I don't want to mispronounce any names, but says the statement, they are the father of everything because they were taught by mother taught them, so they haven't lied about being fathers of this and that. Father is subordinate. And the second, that's an interesting way of looking at it. They're taught by the mother. We as Africans are the mothers of it, and they're the fathers. They're the second. That's an interesting concept. I can get with that. You know, the problem with it, the reason I bring it up, the problem with it is because black people believe that they look up to white people. This is the challenge. This is the challenge. This is why our people support their systems. They're not looking at, you know, organizations like us and what we're teaching, because they're so conditioned to looking at the Caucasian as the authority. That's one of the biggest challenges. Even individuals who claim to be pro-black look at the Caucasian as an authority. You know, they feel that they're not complete, and yes, unless they have a degree, you know, from the Caucasian and his universities. But then you know, the point of education for people is supposed to be so those people can govern themselves, can rule themselves. But we as black people, we get education from them, and it doesn't teach us to govern or rule ourselves. It teaches us to serve their systems. This is the challenge, to try to re-educate our people. That's why we taught for years it's important that we, you know, teach children, because children aren't born with that cultural conditioning. They can be raised to a level where they understand the significance of their particular culture. But our people have to come to the realization that we have to stop allowing our teachers to be educated by foreigners. This is one of our biggest challenges. Zamal, that's exactly right. So Zamal made a statement. The statement, he says, that was supposed, the purpose of the land, getting us away from the distractions so we can focus on the culture. This is why we need our own land. That was one of the principles, right? One of the goals. Goal number 3 is to work to build Sabbatia. We have, guys, we have to rule ourselves. That's the biggest challenge. Black people are so conditioned now to be ruled by the Caucasian. They think that's normal, and that's not normal. And then they're wondering why they're struggling. We're supposed to rule ourselves, but we lost that will to do for ourselves. This is why the master teachers set up the land. And we have to work to rebuild, to build that back up, to create our own, to set up our own land again. We've gotten away from, we don't have the desire. This is the biggest challenge for us, This is the biggest challenge, and it is trying to get our people back to this desire to do for themselves. But we lack that will, as we keep saying. We're trying our best as students to educate, our people about the significance and importance for developing their own. But black people were one, I think, where a lot of us are afraid to do for ourselves. Their doubt. They don't think they can do it. That's another problem we have. We don't believe we can. We lack the will to do for ourselves. That, again, this is why we talk about, as far as a lot is trying to educate children, because first you got to find the adults who have the right state of mind, and then we can educate children. One of my goals was to create a cultural academy for our children, but you have to have the right state of mind of adults who understand the cultural principles to educate the children, so that they can be taught the principles of doing for themselves. This is kind of, if you guys research Booker T. Washington, this is kind of what his whole project was about. How they was developing the Tuskegee University. Everything they built for Tuskegee is the students was the ones who developed the university itself. They built everything themselves. It was self-sustaining, self-sufficient, and that's kind of what we have to get back to. That's kind of what Booker T. Washington was trying to teach, was to build a self-sustaining community. And we as a people, this is what we have to understand. you know. So these are our goals, right? Obviously, number 2 we have here, the goal is we're always fighting Leviathan, because they're constantly miseducating our people. Leviathan, they're constantly lying to our people, and our people are constantly getting caught up in their destructive culture. And so we're spending so much time trying to educate our people about the destructiveness of this culture, of the European culture. You know, this culture promotes ignorance, which is their educational system is based on just pure ignorance. They promote fear, right? This is why they control us with guns. Think about how this system operates. The Caucasian can't run this system without weapons. You know, which they have everybody living in fear that the government's gonna shoot you. Then they promote ego. White people always talking about how much money they got. They flaunt it in your face. They showing it, you know, the houses they have, the cars they have, all the things they could do with their money. And so that's why we say they're materialists. They're full of ego. That's Leviathan. Anger. They're always at war. Since the inception, white people have no history without war. Always fighting somebody, always killing someone, right? Their culture is based around lust and desire. All, you know, that's all capitalism is, right? Greed, desire, excess, and then lies and deceptions. That's all this government does to people, is lie, deceive, cheat. Their religions is based on lies and deceptions. So this is what we're at war with. We're trying to educate our people away from this. Now, here's the goal. When I talk about this part here, what does it mean to be a Sabaean? This is where it's hard for our people, looking at the principles of what it means to be a Sabaean, right? Someone who is thoughtful and cares. Our people don't care about each other no more. And we're surely not thoughtful when it comes to helping one another. We got to get back to that. Someone who is helpful and honest. We're acting like the Caucasian, putting out, you know, our elders in old folks' home, or just leaving them to themselves and not supporting them. We're not an honest people no more. That's why we sell each other poison. Someone who is responsible and hardworking. Obviously, we as Black people having an issue with our responsibility, which is why we're still allowing foreigners, the Caucasian, to rule us. How many of our people, I talk about this a lot, how many of us voted for Joe Biden? Why do Black people vote for white men to rule them? What's wrong with us? You know, this is the challenge. If we just work hard, guys, we can build our own by being responsible. We can do for ourselves. We have the power. You know, next principle, someone who demands justice and honorable. Now, if we demanded justice, we would have been got away from white people. They've been unjust for 500 years to us. And we know they're not honorable. This is what we are as an African people. We're an honorable and just people, but we're not that no more. And if you're going to be a Sabaean, if you call yourself a Sabaean, you have to represent these principles again. It's the opposite of the Caucasian. Someone who is righteous and humble. You know, the Caucasian is not righteous. All they do is lie and deceive and cheat. And they surely not humble people. They always flaunt their power, showing what kind of weapons they have and how they can blow you up and destroy you or conquer this country. We all know what they did to Iraq, right? They staged a whole war based on lies. And what happened to George Bush? Nothing. He went and killed tens of thousands of people based on a lie, so-called weapons of mass destruction, all to steal a whole nation, which is what they did. And everybody supports it. We're right? Someone who's positive and cheerful. Our people are not positive anymore. We are very negative people. Look at the social media stuff we put out. Always dealing with negativity. We're constantly focusing on the things we disagree rather than focusing on things we can agree on. You know? Loving, someone who's loving and peaceful. Obviously, we're not a loving people anymore, and we're not peaceful because we're killing each other. Y'all see what's going on in Chicago. The amount of the black on black violence. Why? Because we adapted the European culture. So we don't love ourselves no more. Our women are running around with blonde hair, and you got black men, don't identify with their culture at all. They don't. We've lost love for ourselves, guys. And to call yourself a Sabian is you're getting back to these principles, right? Someone who is kind and considerate, someone who is neat, clean, and orderly, guys. Why is it in black neighborhoods is filthy? Graffiti everywhere, trash everywhere. It's like we won't fix or work together as a community in the black neighborhoods we live in. We just letting it fall. Like all you gotta do is go to a black community, you see the filth versus white people's community. Now, granted, white people have money. They have the money to keep their neighborhoods, clean because they pay for it. We don't have the money, but we do have the people. And if the people work together, we can take care of our communities. But we're not peaceful. We're not positive anymore. So that's why we don't work together, because we're constantly under massive depression, trying to pay bills, trying to do this. It's, again, their culture is poison to us. Let's see. Wes BZ. I'm I gotta get your name right. It says the people have to learn to see things from the galactic level, and that we are part of a multiverse with various dimensions and beings. Some are ruling us now. When the people see the bigger picture, change will come. Well, this is what we're teaching, right? We're teaching about the reality of existence. We're trying to educate. This is all the master teachers has been trying to do for 50 years, is educate us about existence, about our ancestors existing on the higher dimensions. But black people, think about it. The master teachers had such a difficult time trying to get our people to accept this. Our people don't want to accept existence. They're having a hard time with that. It's sad, it's very sad. We're having a hard time accepting existence, right? And so we have here our purpose: liberation from adverse forces. Every black person in their right state of mind is supposed to be working to liberate themselves from these negative forces. This is the whole goal, right? So we say you must take action each and every day to free yourself of 6 ether spirits inside and out, which includes black people who are possessed by these spirit forces. That's why the master teacher put out the book called 30 Spirits. Our people are possessed. That's really why we're behaving the way we're behaving. And because we lost our spiritual knowledge, we don't understand the science of possession. We don't understand the science of spirituality. And this is what's causing all of this negative behavior. Because we now have the spirit. Remember, the Caucasian spirit forces are 6 ether. That's who they are. Our spirit forces as an African people by nature are 9 ether spirit forces. But because we've been mixing in with them for the last 6,000 years, all of us have these negative spirits in us, possessing us. Right? So in their Bible talks about it in Revelations chapter 18, that this planet has been flooded with all foul spirits. And that's where the problem is. That's why, right? We have bad habits that we know is bad habits, and we lack the willpower to overcome our bad habits. You're possessed, guys. All you got to do is the first sign. I think the easiest sign for people to see how much they're not in control of themselves is try to fast. No food, just let's say water, right? You'll find out most of our people can't fast because they lack the willpower. They have that craving, that desire, and that's the spirit force. But we don't know that. We don't understand that. The Caucasian, he'll just say those are addictions, and people, he'll say, you're addicted to dopamine and whatever else the foods create, and he doesn't explain that you're dealing with spirit forces that trigger certain hormones in the body that creates these cravings. Again, as an African people, we were into spirituality. As animists, we used to know these things. We used to understand that. And so when your third eye was open, you can see and peer into those realms and know and see different spirits. So you knew how to protect yourself. As the master teacher always taught us, you knew how to develop a psychic self-defense. We've lost that knowledge, guys. We must learn again how to develop a psychic self-defense against spirit forces. That's what the rituals that we teach is all about. The prayers, the chants, the meditation, the concentration exercises. All of those things is designed to build up your psychic self-defense against spirit forces. Yeah, eating moss. That's one of their trick concepts. You only live once. Remember, the Mukasu, he puts those things out because he's really talking about himself. He's not talking about us. But because we live their culture, we get caught up in those slogans. We only live once. That's for them. That has nothing to do with us. And you're right, Silo Kanga. That our people's soul is trapped by them. We're using our soul force to feed their forces. The master teacher been talking about that, right? So the next concept in liberation from adverse forces is to acknowledge and fight sixth ether from promoting capitalism, the gay agenda, miscegenation, the so-called equality of the races, and racism, white supremacy, right? So we're fighting all of these concepts that they're pushing on us. And guys, it's sad because they're pushing on us. Remember, the Mukasu they don't worry about the adults because they already know they have the adults. Their focus is always the upcoming generation, the children. And that's what this whole social media thing, they're using that against us. They can't every TV show they put out now and commercials is saturated with gay people. Now that's not to say there's an issue with gay people. The problem what they're doing is they're trying to make people confused about gender. Nature created gender, not humans. Nature created gender. There's a male species in nature. There's a female species in nature. And as an African people, you live according to your nature. They're teaching you and they're teaching your children now. Well, one day your son might feel like he want to be a female. And then 3 years later, he want to change back to a male. And then 3 years later, going to change back to a female. Like I forgot, there's this actress, female. And she was like, she was married, and she, with a husband, with a guy. Then she didn't want to be with him no more. So she left him for a female. And then she talked about going back to a male. This is the culture. This is the cultural confusion that they're teaching our people. And then the concept of miscegenation, where the races mix. Guys, as Africans, study something about the Egyptians. They were totally against miscegenation. They were against even mating with other black people, let alone other races, because they were highly into their cultural concepts. And our people, we as Africans used to know genetics. When you mix into another race, you alter your genetics. When you mix into another race, each race has a different spirit force. We used to know that science, right? I talk about this a lot. We forgot. And then the Caucasian talks about equality of the races, that black people, we fighting for equality, which is a joke. They make it very clear how much wealth and power they have over us. They have all the wealth and power. We have none. So when is this equality going to come? Because they have already put out in the next 30 years, the wealth gap is going to increase tremendously, meaning black people are going to move closer and closer into more poverty, while white people are going to move closer and closer into a more economic and political position more than what they already have. It's meaning their wealth and power is increasing and our wealth and power here in America is decreasing. So what is this equality that black people are talking about? It's foolishness. And then we have learn, live by, and promote the laws / rules of natural nature. Guys, this right here, understanding the rules of natural nature that's a discussion all to itself. I've talked about that before, that we have to get into that. It's very important to understand, for us to understand, the laws / rules of natural nature. We'll get into that. We don't have the time now, but this is, just to kind of give you some of the rules. Like rule number 1 is the mental, right? All is mind. Without consciousness, how would we know we exist? The mind controls all. You can only do what you know. Right knowledge or wrong knowledge will result in positive or negative results. So, meaning the first principle of existence is to understand that existence is mental, the mind. Everything is based on the mind. We used to know this. Now we don't. First of all, the Caucasian is teaching you that there is no such thing as a separate mind, meaning the brain produces the mind. We know it's just the opposite, right? The mind produces the brain, not the other way around. The mind is energy. The brain is material matter. Energy creates material matter, not the other way around, guys. So don't let them fool you on that. Energy creates matter. Matter does not create energy, meaning matter comes from energy. Your cells, your molecules, right? The material of your physical body is created from energy, produces that, and your mind is pure energy. So the mind existed before the material existed. The second principle of natural nature we used to know is the preservation of self and kind, right? Life is precious and to be cherished. Honor your mother and father, for how else could you exist without them? We used to know this. In this culture, we don't honor our bloodline no more. We used to know better. You can't exist without parents, and your children cannot exist without you. And that's why, as Africans, we lived up for and by each other, because we knew one existed based on the other. That's why the Mukasa created capitalism, to create individualism, to separate us, to divide our people, right? The next principle is the opposites. You cannot have up without down, right without wrong, or fast without slow, or positive without negative. Existence is based on opposites, guys. Again, things we used to know, right? We talked about this before, but you got to understand if we understood the concept of opposites, then we wouldn't mix in with other races, because we would know they represent a different morphic field, a different energy field, a different spirit force, because they represent an opposing force or an opposite energy field to us. Once you re-educate yourself about the science of the opposites, then you'll know what energies, like what foods you can eat, what environments you can be in, things that's complementary to your energy, right, field, versus things that's in opposition to your energy field. Again, these are sciences we used to know as an African people. We lost all of this knowledge. The concept of pain and pleasure, right? All work and no play, or vice versa, would create an imbalanced being. For these two poles create balance within the human being. Keep in mind, we mean positive, pleasure, and pain. So meaning that everything in existence is based on balance, right? We live based on the principles of Ma'at. Ma'at was about balance. And so we understood that pain had to be offset by pleasure, and pleasure has to be offset by pain. You had to balance those two principles within your nature. That's what addiction is. Addiction is you created an imbalance. You overdid it. You did too much. What they say? They say too much of anything is not good for you. We have to get back to understanding this is a science, guys. I can't stress it enough. This is a science that we forgot, that you guys have to re-educate and learn this science again. It is important you guys understand these concepts. These are natural nature principles, natural nature rules that we have to learn, that we used to know to live by. Then you have the principle of, or the rule of Ashak Wu-Sabat. Ashak is divine love, Hatap is peace. Right? That's a principle. Becoming one with nine ether puts one in a state of harmony and bliss, which gives birth to the nine mind that rules all. Once you learn that Ashak is a spirit force, it's actually the spirit force of nine ether, you can learn to become in harmony with it again. And you be in that divine mind state, and where it creates a protection against negative energy, guys. Number 6, the principle of polarity. Hot turns to cold and cold turns to hot. Existence is based on polarities, always shifting from one position to the next. Right? And so your body actually has a polarity to it. Your body it fluctuates polarity throughout the day. Once you learn to become in tune with your physical body again, you'll understand how to control your own polarities, your own energies. It's an imperative that you guys, learn that again. Eating moth, you're absolutely right. That's right. We do teach that. You can't unite people physically without uniting them mentally, because a person talks and walks by the way they think. That's correct. This is why we teach the right knowledge. Our people must get the right knowledge first. And so once we can unite mentally, then we can automatically come together physically. And that's what I was saying earlier. We have to agree on the same cultural principles. Once we learn to agree on the same cultural principles, then we'll come together. That's the key. Then we'll come together once we learn to agree on the same cultural principles. Eating Moth says, usually when I try the prayers in our language, I feel a weird energy in my body. That's right, because your body is made of energy, and we're not in harmony with our energies of our bodies. And the prayers, it actually helps. It affects your vibration. And so by doing the prayers, the rituals, the chanting, you'll notice these energy fluctuations, and you have to become in tune with the energies of your physical body again. You have to learn how to do it. You take your time. The key is consistency, right? The key is consistency to tap into your own energy field. Don't forget that. Let's see. Next principle is conditions, right? If conditions are the same, the results will always be the same. So if you find yourself consistently stuck in a situation, is because the conditions that created that situation has not changed. Changing your conditions equals changing your results, right? So Black people are suffering under the control of racism, white supremacy, because we keep ourselves in the conditions of racism, white supremacy. If we understood this natural nature rule of existence, our people eons ago would have fought to get away from the Caucasian. But because we lost knowledge of our ancient culture and principles that we live by, we don't know basic things that we're supposed to know. We should know the principles of conditions. We don't know this stuff no more. Why? Because we lost our sound reasoning, as we keep saying. We lost our ability to reason soundly. Things that we should know that should be simple for us is not. The principle of the rules of attraction and repulsion. We attract and repel energy each and every day in order for our bodies to function efficiently. The sun versus the earth, man versus woman, right? So So what happens is that, first of all, as melanated children of melanin, right? As African people, we're melanin dominated. So melanin is an attraction force. It actually pulls in energy from the sun. It attracts sun energy. Your body is always taking in energy and releasing energy. It's taking in energy and releasing energy, right? It's attracting energy and repelling energy. You have to learn your body rhythm of how to keep you in balance and in harmony based on those principles. You know, the Mukasu always talk about the law of attraction when it comes to his money. Guys, we have to use the law of attraction to bring forth peace and harmony and unity among our people. Because that's what the power is. If we can unify, we can regain our wealth as a people. Principle number 9 is melanin, right? Melanin is designed to attract energy, whether good or bad. We must learn to harness sun energy and not bad energy that comes from cell phones, computers, TV, radio, etc. Guys, because we live European culture, we're indoors most of the time. We're constantly taking in negative energy, like from the electric lights we run in our household. Our melanin is processing all that. The TV we watch, our melanin. Why do you think we have nightmares or dreams? We dream about the TV shows that we watched. That's because your melanin processes that. It absorbs all of that energy. And guys, because we're highly melanin dominated, it affects us more than it affects the Mukasu, and they know that. If we were outdoors more, our melanin would work in our benefit, charging our bodies, keeping us in a powerful state. It keeps us energized. Actually, we'll have more energy. We'll be more effective, and it also makes for our minds. Our minds would think clearer. We'll be more clear, more focused in the things we do. Number 10, rhythm. Learning to breathe in rhythm will enhance our internal energy as well as put us in tune with the Earth's magnetic field. That's important. Rhythmic breathing. There's an energy in the atmosphere we call sechem. Guys, you put out the book called The Breath Book. I highly recommend you guys get access to it. If any of you guys are familiar with that, where is it? The Breath Book right here. This is the revised. We had another edition, an older one. You can get the older one for free because it's not in print on Scribes. And this is the newer edition. But, you know, if you can get a hold of this one, definitely get it. But you guys, this is very important. Understanding the science of breath. I can't stress that enough. Understanding the science of rhythmic breathing again. You know, learning to breathe in rhythm. This is how you really tap into your spirit energy of the physical body. Is to learn. It's a deep breathing technique you have to develop, and it makes it easy for you to connect with your energy grid around your body and inside your body. Okay, rhythm. Okay. Edimoff is asking for more details about rhythm. Okay, so for instance, your heart is when you breathe, right? You breathe in and you breathe out. So when you're breathing in rhythm, okay, it's almost like a flow, like water. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Now watch the flow of my hand. Now, when you're inhaling, imagine you're bringing oxygen, right? You're inhaling oxygen up from the bottom of your stomach or from the top of your stomach, your diaphragm. You're deep breathing. Inhale oxygen in. And when you're exhaling out, you're releasing it. You're releasing all of that energy from your head to your toes. Imagine you're releasing negative energy. You imagine this, guys, right? You're releasing negative energy out of your body, and then you're inhaling positive energy in the atmosphere. It's not just oxygen in the atmosphere, guys. Oxygen, believe it or not, is actually not even good for us. What we really need is called sakhem. That's in the atmosphere. If the sakhem wasn't in the atmosphere, there would be no life on this planet. This planet actually survives off of sakhem, not really oxygen. The Mukasu is not going to teach you this. The Chinese know about it. They call it chi. The Hindus know about it. They call it prana. It's in the atmosphere. And once you learn how to breathe in rhythm, now practice that 3 times a day for 10 minutes. Practice that 3 times a day for 10 minutes, okay? After do it now, be consistent. After about 30 days of doing that, you'll tap into your internal energy grid. And this is how you charge your spirit force. You charge and recharge your spirit force by doing that. Actually, that's how you charge your cells and you reduce aging, guys. You can reduce the aging process. You can slow down your aging because we actually have the ability easily to live up to 120 years old and still be healthy, but we don't know how to breathe. And the food that you eat depletes your cells. That's why we age. The food that you're eating depletes your cells, okay? Because you're taking in this energy when you go to sleep. That's why the body gets recharged when it goes to sleep. It has 8 hours of sleep. The body gets recharged through this what they call sakhem. The problem is you don't get enough charge during the sleep cycle. You don't get enough charge. And so if you learn how to master rhythmic breathing in rhythm, you can move as you're moving throughout the day doing things, you're charging your cells from the brain to the toes, guys. You're charging your cells. This is the problem of gaining weight. As you gain weight, when people gain weight, they're making it harder for them to charge their cells because you're adding on that extra baggage. Okay. And it slows down the blood flow. That's why you get sick, because you're slowing down the blood flow and your blood doesn't get oxygenated. The cells in the blood is not being properly charged. Because remember, your blood is flowing throughout your body to charge the different parts of your body. When you don't properly breathe, you don't properly get your cells don't properly get recharged. Yes, Zamal, you're absolutely right. The next one is vibration, guys. Vibration. All things move, nothing is still. Once you become one with the vibrations of your body, you'll be able to raise and lower it at will, giving you the power to turn yourself inside out, aka your morphic resonance, your vibrations. You're tapping into your morphic resonance. This is how you, as you learn, when you learn to tap into your vibrations of the physical body, actually you're tapping into your spirit body. Once you learn how to tap into your vibration, you can control your vibration through the rhythmic breathing. This is how you raise your vibration, and then you'll be able to pierce into the other dimensions. Like the other plane that's connected is woven into the material. We're on a material plane. And then the next realm is the plane of force. Okay. This is where the ghosts, where the people say, I see ghosts, they exist on a plane of force. Now, once you increase your vibration, you'll be able to peer into that realm. First of all, as you're increasing your vibration, your senses will heighten. Your sense of smell will increase. Your sense of hearing will increase. Your eyesight will increase. All of your senses will heighten. Okay? Remember, this is raising your vibration. This is all we've been trying to teach. The process is consistency, guys. The process is consistency and maintaining a positive mind. Remember, negativity cuts the energy flow. That's why the Mukasu keeps you in a negative, depressive state, because it cuts your energy flow. That's why you got to constantly do rituals to keep you. It keeps you in a positive state, that harmonic state. That's why the whole goal is to learn how to tap into Ashak, that blackness, right? Once you learn how to keep yourself in that, it's like a harmonious state. Once you learn how to keep yourself in that realm without allowing the negative things in the world to distract you, to take you off your center. The goal is to keep you on the center. Guys, watch the movie. What's that movie? The Last Dragon. I think it's The Last Dragon with Eddie Murphy. The Golden Child. Sorry. Watch the movie The Golden Child. If you haven't watched it, watch it. If you have watched it haven't watched it in a while, watch it again. If you look at the Golden Child, the demons that when they kidnapped the Golden Child, right? And they had to surround him by negative energy, because the Golden Child was able to keep himself in that basically the Golden Child was able to keep himself in a state of love, absolute love. And so those negative energies that was surrounding him, they couldn't penetrate him. And they was trying to penetrate him, doing chants and rituals to try to break his center. And that's what the Mukasu has done to us. That's why he keeps us in a negative state. And so we can't raise our vibration, because we're always becoming depressed about something, worried about something. You got to pay your bills. You got to do this. You got to, help your mother out. It's always something negative. And that keeps you, and it blocks your energy flow. And that's why we can't raise our vibration. And so you guys have to learn how to keep yourself, imagine that blackness, keep yourself in that state, serene state, and stop allowing family, friends to get you in a negative state. And keep in mind, when you're in that negative state, you can't reason clearly. You can't think clearly. How can you solve problems? You won't be able to solve problems, because that's why people get negative. They hit with problems. They got money problems. They got relationship problems. They have social problems, right? Whatever, educational problems. Well, if you keep yourself in a harmonious state, then you'll be able to reason better. You'll be able to solve your problems easier. Don't forget that. Number 12, cause and effect. Remember, for every cause, there will always be an effect, whether positive or negative. This is the rule of fate that we as Sabians live by. We live by the rule of fate, right? For every cause, there's always an effect, a reaction to an action. That's a law. That's a natural nature reality. That's why people wonder why, when something bad happens to you, that's because that's your fate. Meaning, this is why, guys, when you go to principle number 2, preservation of self and kind, you're tied to the fate of your bloodline. You're tied to the fate of your bloodline, meaning you're responsible for the actions of your mother and father, just as much as you're responsible for the actions of your children. Each race is connected to each other, because we're tied by, we're connected. Each race is connected by spirit energy force. We used to know that. That's why our ancestors understood the science. You don't divide. When you divide yourself, let's say one group of your family is doing one thing, right? They live in California. Another group lives in on the other side of the country, in New York, whatever. Or if you're in Africa, one group lives in Ghana, the other group lives in Tanzania, right? Well, your response, you're still connected to that family. So let's say the family in Tanzania, on the opposite, does something negative to somebody. Well, that negative energy is connected to the whole bloodline. That's a whole science, guys, that it take time to even explain how that works. But I'm trying to let you know it's real. It's very real. That's why if you're a parent and you're a drug addict and you have a child, you get pregnant, your child could be born with the same addictions. You passing that energy on to your bloodline. This is, again, these are sciences we used to know. The last one, the science of addictions, right? Addictions. These are things our genes have been coded to respond to with frequency and speed, whether good or bad. Addictions are overcome by the force of will and a change in the conditions that created the addiction. That's why people it's so hard for us to conquer addictions, because we stay in the same in the conditions that create the addictions. And again, remember, we don't have the willpower to overcome the addictions. Why? Because those are spirit forces. We're constantly being possessed by spirit forces. What do the spirit forces do? They're the ones that put the thought in your head to do the bad, to do the bad behavior. And then it creates a sense of pleasure. So let's say you're someone who likes to drink, man. You like to drink. You want to keep drinking, and that spirit force will keep putting that thought of alcohol in your head, And then it don't help because the Caucasian makes all these alcohol commercials, and then when you go outside, you see all these places that sell alcohol, and all those things play on your psyche, and that's why our people, it's hard for them to break their addictions, because they're surrounded by these conditions that feeds that negative force. That this is another reason why we say we must create our own environment away from this 60 children, because they thrive off of that dead negative energy. And if we want to heal ourselves, if we want to develop ourselves, we got to get away from the things that make us weak. Remember that, guys. Okay. Oof. It's a lot. Covered a lot. We're at our time. I'm gonna close out and do our closeout prayers and chants. If you guys have any questions, I'll address it. If not, we'll pick up next week. But as I always say, watch these discussions more than once, right? Watch our discussions more than once. We can't grow without you guys' support. One of the things for you guys who watch, because I have consistently about, let's imagine, guys, our goal, let me just say this. Our goal is to influence our people in the positive, right? That's what we're trying to do. We argue that we as Sabians, we have the superior doctrine for our people. We have the solution to solving our people's problems. We're the ones with the right knowledge to educate our people on how to solve their problems, because they're not being taught these things that we're talking about. So how do we grow? We grow by you guys. You guys must help us grow. There are 3 things you guys can do. All of y'all, everyone who's consistent, because let's say we have about 300 loyal people who watch our videos, watch these lectures. There are 3 things you guys can do. Number 1, okay, now think about this. Number 1, right? Talk to family and friends and sit down and watch the lectures with them. Just choose any lecture. Sit down with family and friends and talk about what the lecture is trying to teach them and why they should know that. All of you guys can do that. Sit down with a family and or friends and just watch one of the lectures. The same way y'all watch a movie. Do that. Right? Now, I always say, you guys, I'm only on YouTube, so I'm not on the other stuff. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter or Instagram or any of those things, but you guys are. So promote the channel on all of those things. You guys can do that. For you guys who are on Facebook, for you guys who are on Twitter, or if you on whatever, promote the videos, because if 100 of you or 200 of you were consistently promoting the video to family and friends, sitting down with them, watching the videos, promoting on the social media sites that you guys are on, okay? And one, also, when you guys watch, I keep asking guys, watch the older videos and start asking questions, because if y'all can at least watch, let's say y'all watch one video one video a week or one video every other week, right? And ask 3 questions from that video, that lecture. Those questions stimulate conversation, and that helps people who are new, who are looking, who are searching. Our people are searching for answers, but they're either going to go into Islam, that's going to misguide them, or they're going to, go into Christianity, that's going to misguide them, or they're going to join some other organization that's not going to teach them the truth. You guys can, we're the ones that can solve the problems for our people. We have the right knowledge. I can't stress this enough. This information will change your life for the better. Keep in mind, anyone who is in our organization and they left our organization, I'm here to tell you from my own personal experience, they only left because they never understood these concepts that I'm going over with you guys. They never understood the principles and how to use this doctrine to make their life better, how to help them in their decision-making abilities. They never understood how to use the doctrine as a tool. That's why they leave. Because they didn't see the value in it. And that's what I've spent so much time trying to teach you guys, the value in right knowledge and the value in what we teach and why it's so important and why we're unique above anyone else. No one else has this right knowledge. You're doing a great job, Allison. We need everyone to be like Allison, who's constantly spreading the word. Again, if it's 100 of you guys got, because we got a consistent, we don't, guys, think about this. Think about, we have a lot of people out there that teach, consciousness. They try to educate our people. A lot of brothers, whether you have the Sonetta, you have this other brother named Black Magic. He usually have people like Phil Valentine on his social media. I think he had like 300 subscribers or something like that. You had the Nation of Islam, whatever. We had the most profound doctrine out of all of them, but people get caught up in the negativity of our organization. They get the situation with the master teacher. In his case, our people, they prejudge everything without researching. They don't understand. Trust me, they don't understand the profoundness of our doctrine, including the ex-students who leave. Trust me, I know these people. They never understood the concepts of our doctrine. And also keep in mind, a lot of our people are so negative and their ability to reason, you can't help them anyway, right? And so all you can do is suggest it and you move on. You move on to the next. Keep in mind how many Black people on the planet, because this doctrine is for our people. Really, it's for everyone on earth. But if you just focus on Black people, it's 1 billion of us. So don't worry about the ones who don't want to hear. Just move on to the next. It's enough of our people. The master teacher's always been trying to, if we can get 144,000, that's like that prime number. That's less than a fraction of percent of our population. That's not a lot of people. And I'm arguing the reason why we're having a hard time of recruiting is because a lot of students, they don't understand the concepts and the principles that we teach and that we live by to make your lives better. Our people's lives would be better once they have this right knowledge. I guarantee you guys. And be the example you want others to live up to. Utilize this doctrine to make your life better, to make you a better person. And those around you will see that in you. And that also will influence them. So keep that in mind. On that note, I'm gonna do a closeout 9 p.m. prayers. And just for you guys know, for those who are new to listening to our prayer rituals, again, it's for spiritual development to help you develop your energies in the body. That's why we do the prayers and affirmations for that reason. So it's very important. So we do it in our language. Lahaj means we do it in our Lahaj. Lahaj means language. Okay. If you don't know it, you can read the English Okay, you can do it in English and until you learn how to do it in our language, because that's the key, to learn how to do the prayer systems in our language. I can't stress that enough. Now, so let's get started. Bade kala namasat wufak or aman kasamon shalal port. Pa takyu. Anuki jawaf pa ashuk impa port. Wu kala ashuk kawun jawaf nia. Anuki kasam an impa port. Wu pa port kawun kasamon imnia. Anuki wahu amad pa port. Wu pa port kawun wahu amad nia. Naku kodor naju amad kasam an impa port. Wu khabu amam muskasun. Naku kodor kawan kalep afaf naku daya jawep pa put. Amam wase amam dayani kuun lake bakui jawep pa put. Anuki yababi nafasni. Pa put kawun. Anuki pa put kodor. Naku kodor. Pa put amu. Naku amu. Lahahum manahnun. Lahahum manahnun. Ahumata korehum, Ahumata korekum, Ahumata korenun, Ahumata jawafnia, Ahumata nia wu anuki hum, Yaye ashuk re'e, Asmua jaye nun, Yaye nataru afuknun, Anunata mukra ukum, Yaye nataru afuknun, 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 Yaye nataru nun, Anun. Atun, Atun, Amun. Namazo wahu, Yaye mufaku. Yaye hu, Yaye hu, Yaye nataru. Yaye soye, Yaye nataru. Yaye hika, Yaye nataru. Ankum at the pa mufaku. Yaye hu, Yaye nataru. Ankum at the pa mufaku. Wu anunata mukra ukum. Wu ankum at the muisanun. Yaye hu, Yaye nataru. Aro muklas nun atum reye. Yaye hu, Yaye nataru. Namazo atu, aro and hu. Yaye mukdamu afut nun. Ankum mana yake laduda muslafu nun. Wu muisa nun. Mana yake suwuru paba. Mana yake kawuna ka'u. Mana yake ata akak. Mana yake kawuna basha wu damam. Yaye nataru mukdamu nun. Aro muftad nun. Anhu kawun muzam mana pa nataru. Aro anhu. Anhu kawun baba yananan. Aro anhu. Anhu kawun atum reye, aro anhu kawun haror, namazor dalu. Yaye nataru muslafu nun, afut nun mene pa mujwa'u, afut nun mene gahal an, yaye nataru afut nun, mene saya khayara, afut nun afutniya, afut nun afutniya, Yaye nataru nun. Namazo rabu pah tahmui. Nakuk talud tahmui bi pa nataru. Mane pe laen lawi tanen u. Kale horan atni at the lahe pa nataru. Wu kale namazo atni at the lahe kayat yatun laye pa nataru. Pa sawa wu pa turu. Pane misfa kawun. Pa sawa wu pa turu. Z kawuna nazula lahe enkum mane maspat wu masa ama hade en un wu damal un mane muslafu kum wu nataru ajula ye nafasu kum afuk shene kawun kum pa sawa wu pa turuk pa hade en wu pa shafe en nun tawa enkum lahe panen dama wu shafe Anun tawa ankum lahatem nasuinun. Anun tawa ankum lahe ashukuma. Ankum ata muslafunun. Anun ata mukra ukum. Anun talub nasakuma, Anun talub nasakuma, and so nun kahen nataru, and so nun muslafu nun, anunata musbatu, anun, atun, atun, amun. Yaye nataru nun, yaye mufta'u, yaye nataru. Yaye atun bureye, yaye natar, yaye nun, yaye natar, yaye nuntat, yaye natar tat, yaye ha, yaye natar, yaye hatat, yaye natar tat, yaye kak, yaye natar, yaye kaktat, yaye natar tat, yaye amun, yaye natar, yaye amun tat, yaye natar tat, yaye atum, yaye natar, yaye shashash, yaye natar, yaye tafafnatat, yaye natar tat, yaye sabab, yaye natar, yaye natat, yaye natar tat, yaye arashtat, yaye natar tat, yaye asa, yaye natar, yaye nabab tat had tat, yaye natar tat, yaye satak, yaye natar, yaye hara, yaye natar, yaye hatwi, yaye natar, yaye anaktat, yaye natar tat, yaye ahaharatwi, yaye natar, yaye nafartum, yaye natar, yaye menthu, yaye natar, yaye bapti, yaye natar, yaye sakamtat, yaye natar tat, yaye ahaharatwi, haratat, yaye natar tat, yaye ba'ibish, yaye natar, yaye patata, yaye natar, yaye basas tat, yaye natar tat, yaye imhatap, yaye natar, yaye hu, yaye natar, yaye matat, yaye natar tat, yaye mahat, yaye natar tat, yaye kafre, yaye natar, yaye miskanat, yaye natar tat, yaye horaye tat, yaye natar tat, yaye chentimentiu, yaye natar, yaye hika'a, yaye natar tat, yaye natar tat, yaye natar tat, yaye ma'at, yaye natar tat, yaye horanen tat, yaye natar tat, yaye shashe, yaye natar tat, yaye sashat, yaye natar tat, yaye mafdat, yaye natar tat, yaye sabak, yaye natar, yaye anap, yaye natar, yaye khanum, yaye natar, yaye khanas, yaye natar, yaye patanun, yaye natar, yaye saye, yaye natar, yaye haktak, yaye natar tat, yaye amas, yaye natar, yaye saratwi, yaye natar, yaye atum re'e, yaye natar tat, yaye dahutwi, yaye natar, yaye patah warat, yaye natar tat, yaye sakar tat, yaye natar tat, yaye ha, yaye natar, yaye naheb ka'ah, yaye natar, yaye sakar, yaye natar, yaye ba'ah, yaye natar, yaye akar, yaye natar, yaye imharat tat, yaye natar tat, yaye wapawatat, yaye natar, yaye sakat hatap tat, yaye natar tat, yaye merdi tat sakar tat, yaye natar tat, yaye saye tat, yaye natar tat, yaye garad tat, yaye natar tat, yaye asat inu, yaye natar, Yaye Bahatat, Yaye Nathar Tat, Yaye Chanem Tat, Yaye Nathar Tat, Yaye Manaktat, Yaye Nathar Tat, Yaye Chamem, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Mahatwi, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Kabefsin and Afaf, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Damata Afaf, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Meritat, Yaye Nathar Tat, Yaye Nasat, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Imdadat Tat, Yaye Nathar Tat, Yaye Nakakbatat, Yaye Nathar Tat, Yaye Sakat Tat, Yaye Nathar Tat, Yaye Anak Tat, Yaye Nathar Tat, Yaye Dadad, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Tum, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Wahoo, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Yesas, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Anak, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Afnuit, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Satat, Yaye Nathar Tat, Yaye Sakatwi, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Immaat, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Nanah, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Imnuit, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Imsataktwi, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Mukdaltat, Yaye Nathar Tat, Yaye Rahashafaf, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Maratwi, Yaye Nathar, Yaye Amun Re'e, Yaye Nathar, Yehu Hanun Ata Khaled Jawef Pa'ut Nun Re'e Tum Re'e Tun Re'e Mun Re'e Yeah. Jennifer. Okay. For those who are not familiar with our prayer systems and affirmations and chants, again, we do it for the purpose of spiritual development, for the purpose of raising your vibration. Your body is vibrating, and you have the ability to increase that vibration through the rituals. The key to the rituals is consistency. That's why we talk about doing it 3 times a day, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. Anyone who's able to stay consistent and doing that anywhere between 30 to 90 days, you will see a spiritual significance. You will feel the difference. You will increase your spirit energy, your energy force around inside your body and around your body. This is how you develop yourself spiritually, which is the ultimate goal of what we teach, right? And so I do it for the so you guys as a reminder, as a remembrance, and so I try my best to be consistent for the purpose of helping you guys to see the significance, importance of doing the rituals. What is the point of learning all this right knowledge, right? Because the purpose of the right knowledge is to get you to the point where you understand why you should be doing the rituals. because that's really the ultimate goal, is to raise up your vibration to be in harmony with your spiritual nature. But when you're going into the spiritual realms, you need a certain state of consciousness. That's why you need the right knowledge. So it's not good to be doing spiritual work without right knowledge. This is how people get possessed, because they're going to spiritual things, they're doing spiritual things, practices, and they lack the right knowledge about spirituality. And so our doctrine is to educate you about the different natures of spirit forces between the 9 ether forces versus the 6 ether forces, so that once you really start doing the rituals, you know that your mind is to focus on the 9 ether spirit forces. You know how the 9 ether spirit forces think versus how the 6 ether spirit forces think. And that's, one of the reasons why we try to educate you guys on those concepts. So I hope that helps. Right? We tried to cover a lot. I think what we did go over, I know is very helpful. If you guys just take the time to really peer into what we were trying to teach, I know it would be a benefit. And as I always say, definitely spread the word. Let people know the good news, right? The Christians always talk about they're spreading the good news. Well, we too are spreading the good news, the right news. This is what we call salvation information. We're the ones with the right knowledge that is save our people, because the goal is for each individual to increase their intelligence level so that they can start making decisions based on sound right reasoning again, right? Being in harmony with their nature, their natural nature, and understanding the concepts of natural nature, and understanding the European cultures are based on unnatural nature. And that's why their systems are so destructive and harmful to us. Our people don't have that right knowledge, and they need that right knowledge. So I say until the next time, spread the word. Spread the word, and we're going to keep fighting nonstop. We're going to keep fighting. Until then, Wadu, Yasar.
Yeah.
Sharo.